It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
All right, welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, episode number 82 of a conversational podcast recorded, cut and delivered for your pleasure, generally from Auckland, New Zealand. I'll be down in Wellington getting a couple of episodes in the proverbial can over Christmas. Already confirmed 2 guests I'm excited about. I've got another Auckland-based guest recording on Monday. So in the style and tradition of 2018's series, I guess this is series 3, 2019, I'll be cramming a bunch of eps through December to get the number that I set myself as a target for this year, which was only 12, but quality, not quantity. Next year, the numbers may well go up again as a result of a light bulb I had a few weeks ago that I talked about on the last ep I dropped, which is that it was great having the show concept of people coming and chatting at my kitchen bench when I was in Kingsland. But now I'm in the CBD, things such as the exorbitant parking rates make it more and more difficult to convince guests with a straight face to come here. So I am taking the show to the guests, and the way I am doing that is via this amazing bit of kit that I have sitting in front of me, which I think is the only currently dedicated podcast piece of kit on the market in terms of a desk. There are mics and so on. So no computer required. I've got this kind of mini radio desk in front of me called the Rodecaster. It's got stuff like you can bung in Bluetooth audio automatically. You can easily plug in stuff with jack, USB. It all records to mini SD. It's got wee pads, so you can. I've got the stock ones in here. They're very kind of classic broadcasting. So let's go. So welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Thank you. Welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Okay, that's enough. And other classics you can't go past, like but those pads can be loaded up with interview content, more show-appropriate stings of your own, any kind of bits and bobs. I'll post some pics and stuff up on my social media, probably on my Facebook at some stage, maybe a video of me having a tutu with it. But it's amazing, and it all fits in a bag, and I've got to really give props to Rockshop for helping me out with this setup, and that's where the desk is available. I think they retail for about 11. They've got lots of add-ons and stuff you can bung on as well. But looking forward to taking this on the road, particularly first proper road test. I guess aside from Monday, we'll be down to Welly. Okay, on the show today, I was enamoured and honoured to have Julia Deans, New Zealand singer-songwriter, on the show. Julia and I met late 90s in Wellington, an era and period that has come up with a few guests on these shows. It was just genuinely enjoyable to catch up and chat with her, probably realistically for the longest we've ever chatted, just over an hour. A few notes from the show. I didn't ask her, but I did ponder asking with a band name like Fur Patrol where that came from, and my instincts were right. It is related to pubes, and in particular to an advertisement that was seen back in the 90s when they were looking for a name for pubic hair removal in a world where arguably less pubes were removed than they are today. So I don't know if Fur Patrol was a tagline on some sort of cream or similar. We talk about living in Melbourne. We talk about some quite lofty stuff like being terrified about environmental change. And we talk about Julia's recent foray into opera. She hasn't performed yet publicly, but she is training the voice to sing opera. We talked about being genetically alcoholic as Irish, English and Scottish people. We talked about the homosexual law reform bill because we were talking about wider social change in general, and just a little trivia tidbit about New Zealand. I think from memory that law passed in 1986, but it was never actually illegal to be a lesbian in New Zealand. Strange framing of rules, eh? Hey, there you go. Something to do with the patriarchy wrapped up in that too, I'm sure. The track that I play at the end of the show also comes up. It's one of Julia's, funnily enough, but I just thought I'd give you a heads up on where you can find that if you don't know already. It's Burning Cars. It's from her last album, We Light Fire, and I think the best way to support Julia with finding that, if you were to purchase the album, is via her Bandcamp page, Julia Deans. You can also check her website at juliadeans.co.nz. What sound does this one make? Classic. Okay, stop that. Okie way, speaking of places to go and link on up, there's my Facebook page, Verbal Highs Podcast. Please like. It's been great to see new likes coming through recently. 1, 2 a month even. Just keeps me going. These little indications of a growing audience for a passion project. Verbal Highs on the Twitter. I really just post new eps up there and occasional thoughts, but not on the Twitter too much. There's my dedicated website, as I said, verbalhighs.com. Thank you again, Julia, for coming on in. Enjoy the show.
This is Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs.
This is the first time I've ever used this. This is a dedicated podcast making machine.
Wow.
From Rock Shop. It's kind of like an entire radio station in a little box.
By road.
And it all records to a little mini SD, because I'm of the vintage where it still amazes me that much information can end up on a little
Yeah, it's like doing recording things into we actually recorded all of my last album on my laptop.
All the backing instrumentation and everything?
Everything.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're using an external hard drive for storage, but the fact that this laptop powered everything.
I think around the time I first met you, it was amazing knowing someone with a CD burner.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like that long ago.
No.
Do you listen to many podcasts?
I have a few little faves that I listen to sort of sporadically.
Do you listen to conversation-y, interview-y ones?
I have done.
This isn't an interrogation.
No, I know. I'm just trying to think. When I do long drives by myself, which isn't that often, I will, just ask what's good.
Okay, well, I only ask because the idea is you just go straight in, so we've actually already started.
Cool.
It's very postmodern. You had such a long list of accolades to your name. I just wrote with us today is award-winning singer-songwriter Julia Deans.
I've actually only won. I haven't won any awards.
It was the only thing I picked that I didn't research.
Ages. I've been nominated for heaps. I think we started off with a hiss and a roar back with Fur Patrol.
Right, so in fact you have won awards in the past.
Yeah, but it was so long. That's like 2 years ago.
That's weird, man. I got not to do with you in particular coming over at all. Just doing these. I was just thinking about, because for someone I know from a reasonable while ago like yourself, I got kind of pre-recording fear, and I realised I'm less confident with jumping into things these days than I used to be. There's something about there's a certain confidence with age that's different to some things where I just now am a little more. I've got to do that thing today. But here we are. Are you festive? How do you feel about Christmas?
Yeah, I really love the fact that everyone fucks off out of Auckland at Christmas time, and if you're here, it's really quiet. No, I like getting together with friends and family and having a feast. And I love cooking and feeding people. So when I get that opportunity, I really relish it. But this year, it's just David, my partner, and I, and we're going to be, by ourselves. So I'm hoping that I can persuade him to get his butt out of bed and go and check out some waterfalls or something, go and have a picnic somewhere instead of just sitting around the house all day, which we've definitely done in the past.
Well, that's a sign of age. When did Dave become David?
Oh, he's always been David.
Oh, okay.
But just everyone calls him Dave.
Yeah,
but he
fair
actually
enough.
prefers,
So, family Christmas, where are you from? Are you originally from Christchurch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Christchurch. I was actually born in the Hutt Valley.
All right.
Yeah.
So what happened with your folks what were your folks doing work-wise to go Hutt Valley, Christchurch?
I think it was more that I think when I was born, my parents were basically flatmates, and I definitely wasn't planned. And I think when I actually appeared, my dad freaked out and ran away, and then came back a year later and went, "Okay, we should be, I'm sorry." And so they moved to Christchurch.
Do you mean he stuck around for the 9 months and then freaked out when you literally appeared?
No, I think he like disappeared before that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And are they still together?
No, but they did stand by each other and by us for 20 years, which is impressive.
Just you and Sean. So, folks,
And
I know Julia's brother as well.
Oh, and we have a sister as well.
Older or younger?
Youngest, the biggest, the baddest, and the meanest of us all.
Where's she?
She's in Berlin. Well, actually, currently she's travelling around Southeast Asia. She's just arrived for 6 months.
Have you been to Berlin? I was there recently for the first time.
Yeah, I've been there twice. In fact, I was just there in August and early September.
Is there still that enclave of kind of Kiwi creatives and stuff
There
living
are
there?
many Kiwis in Berlin. But, there's a lot of people from everywhere in that city. It's
like any
fascinating place.
international city. It is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I went to, I haven't done a lot of travelling. Well, actually, I'm luckier than most people. But I've got, you get that Facebook envy, don't you? But anyway, I did 4 or 5 cities in a couple of weeks, 3 nights each. And Berlin was physically way bigger than a lot of the other European cities I went to. And I sort of thought, I need longer here than when I was there to kind of suss it.
Yeah.
Do you get the vibes like you could live there?
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
I found that that romanticism of my 20s of I want to live that, live in a big European city or American city. I really enjoyed it, but I had a newfound appreciation for New Zealand when I came back for all its flaws.
I think
it's not overpopulated. It's near coast.
Yeah,
the food's nice and bright.
That's definitely a big thing for me that I've absolutely found since moving back to New Zealand from Australia is that the luxury of having beaches and coastline within sort of half an hour's drive is just I would find that very hard to give up. I did also go to southern Italy around Puglia.
Yeah.
After being in Berlin, and that was definitely more I can see myself living here.
Yeah, I thought of that. I want to go to all those red wine, sunshine, all those parts of Europe. I went to the very Germanic kind of central. What you were going to say about Berlin? You were going to say I think, and then we sort of went somewhere else. You think, what you think? You said you don't know anymore.
Oh, I would definitely love to go and spend a 3-month. Period of time immersing myself there, and because there's so many creative opportunities and people have a different approach to how they make things. And
what do you mean there? That's interesting.
It's more the people that I know there, and sort of there's the whole. I mean, even down to the approach to music as performance. I think I'm trying to remember that. I'm terrible with names of
That's
things.
right. I forget stuff as well.
Awesome festival. Of electronic dark electronic music.
Oh, God, in Berlin, that could be so many...
And
anyway.
it was in this incredible industrial... There was an old power station, power plant. So, like, you know, the ceilings were like hundreds of meters high kind of thing. And it was all concrete and...
Dark industrial, like, techno music.
Yeah. And my disco played, and, you know, they had all these really interesting artists, and it was like hardcore electronica.
Yeah.
And it was... But people would stand there and they were watching. Like, people weren't talking. They were watching and dancing and appreciating this insane music at incredible volumes.
Yeah.
And it was so reverent.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like when you sort of go to electronic music festivals here and everyone's just like, like the same kind of music, but also more experimental music, and everyone's just like in awe. It was really fucking cool.
That's so funny. I just flashed back to, like, you're so right. Like, I don't really go to big things like that in New Zealand these days, but just flashbacks to, like, when I got tickets to Summer Days in Melbourne, you know, like that New Year's Day, like, compared to, like, you know, still partying in Germany, but it being a bit more, yeah, I get it. So my takeaway was, like I say, we're fucking really far away from everything.
Yes.
But I think these days there's a kind of safety in that. And I found that, like, Europe obviously trades on that amazing history, and you just stand somewhere and someone would say, oh, this is blah, 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 blah. But flip side of that is a lot of it's like, it's just had so many people through it now. Like, there's a certain kind of run-downness to it that, again, I appreciate. I've noticed this side of the world kind of looks to the future, whereas that side of the world kind of looks to the past in a way.
But there's I think there is gravity in having that past.
Oh,
you know,
totally.
there's that sense of history kind of gives you, or they have a lot more groundedness, or there's like a common sense that actually seems missing on some levels. It's there aren't a million... the classic example for me is going to a swimming pool in Europe and... and here in New Zealand, there's like, don't run, don't dive bomb, all these rules. And you walk into, swimming baths somewhere in Europe, and it's like, you think we can behave like adults? Oh, this is awesome.
It's so funny you say that. The other thing I was thinking about bringing up, which I will now, is the different attitudes to kind of drinking and alcohol sales and so on. Like, at the same time, I found it odd seeing a reasonably together-looking German gentleman with, like, a Spam roll and a cigarette and a beer at 9 a.m. At the same time, I'm like, maybe the reason we have such, like you just joked about with people, like, partying at big festivals, I wonder if it's all the rules we've got that makes people, like, just explode when they do. Yeah, do you know what I mean? We've got this kind of, like, and it's become more restricted in our lifetimes too, like the hours you can and can't do stuff, and don't walk here and do this, and we have a lot of rules, Antipodeans in general.
Yeah, but it's also, I guess it comes from, the English are also, we're English and Irish and Scottish, which is where... predominantly, Pakeha New Zealanders are predominantly from.
Are you saying we're
cultures.
Genetically worse behaved than Germans?
We're genetically alcoholics.
Okay, fair play. That's my justification for the year. I'm genetically.
It's a really complex, situation and problem. Issue.
That's interesting. Okay, I didn't think it was genetic, but it might be something.
I'm not saying it's genetic. It's cultural.
Yeah. So cultures come from rules and so on. Anyway, so I probably told you this is like loosely a bio piece. So we just chat wherever we want, but we'll try and get somewhere vaguely from the beginning. So school. Where'd you go to school in Christchurch?
That's the classic Christchurch question,
isn't
it? I can't.
Oh my god, it is the classic Christchurch question. Sorry, I'll ask a Wellington question. What was the first movie you saw? No. Where'd you go to school?
I went to. I'm presuming you mean high school. I went to Burnside High School.
Yeah. Is that a loaded response if you're from Christchurch? I don't know. Is it really that class-based?
Oh, see, I only recently found out that this question was a sort of a judgmental, financial background question. I never ever gave it any thought. I thought it was more like placing people geographically around the city and like knowing who you might know. But then I guess that's me. I don't really care how much people do or don't earn.
Yeah, well, good school. Good. I mean, people. There's two.
It's a big school. It's one of the biggest schools in the Southern Hemisphere, and it had a really great music department. So. Even though I lived, the house that we lived in was about 5 kilometres away. So I used to do a lot of cycling to and from school every day. And the reason that I wanted to go there was for the music department.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I don't mean the quality of the school so much, but there's kind of two responses generally when you ask people about their high school years. Like, I liked it or I didn't like it.
I mostly liked it, I think. Yeah. I was a bit of a nerdy student.
Yeah.
I never wagged school until I was about in 7th form, and I fell in with the naughty crowd. Well, actually, that's a lie. I fell in with two people. My best friends had already left school, and so they were like, why don't you come in? Let's go busking. Let's go make some money.
Not such
Which
a bad
we used
thing.
to do. No, it was great.
So, you've probably been asked this a million times, but was music kind of always on the cards first and foremost? I mean, it's kind of like my take is that back then creative endeavours were less kind of like, in terms of pressure around you, like you should have something to fall back on or da-da-da-da, much more encouraged now. But were you always like, your music's going to be my direction?
I don't think I set out with music as when I leave school I'm going to be a musician.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't have that mindset. It was more, I'm just going to try some stuff and see what happens.
Yeah. Throw it and see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean, I was also considering law school or fashion design, but they were all, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I think when it came time to make that decision, I just it's like you're still young, Mum and Dad were really supportive of my decision to go and study music, so I applied to a couple of different music schools, and I got into the Wellington one and the Christchurch one, and I just wanted to get out and be on my own and experience the world. So of course I moved to Wellington.
Is that like quote unquote jazz school in Wellington, or
yeah? It was I think it was the Conservatorium is what it was called back then, but it's now since been absorbed into Mercy.
It's up on the hill now when you go over to Newtown, I think. So
no, that's where it used to be.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. I haven't lived there for 20 years.
I think the SPCA is up there now, which would be an awesome spot for the SPCA. It was such a great place to. It was because it was a little.
Oh, it was up there then.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my intel's so wrong. I thought it moved later. So, like somewhere like Toi Whakaari or like any of these places that that produce people that kind of end up known by the public. Like, who was in your kind of generation of jazz school that's still playing? And
in my year the year that I was. There was like Aaron Tokona was doing the foundation course, Darren Mathias, Warren Maxwell.
Pretty much a bunch of the people around.
Heaps of people,
yeah.
That are still making music and have, gone on to do really amazing things.
And what does, I'd imagine like you audition, you kind of show a general level of chops.
Competence.
Yeah. Chops, bro, and then you do some sort of like written app as well. And once you're in 2 years, 3 years, how long?
It was 3 years.
It's a big question, but like, what did you take away from it aside from getting better? Better at the craft, like what did music school do for you? Why did you cackle? Why did you cackle uncontrollably?
Because
very measured and sensible question.
I applied as a composition student, which they had because they had the classical school and the jazz school, and they ran sort of side by side, and they had jazz. Classical composition was like a set course, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't
Yeah.
a competent enough guitarist or pianist to, do either of those things. Or singer, I don't know, I can't even remember. But I applied as a comp student, and they went, "Oh, that's interesting." Well, and then did the audition. They were like, "Yeah, I think we could do something with you." And but they didn't really know exactly what to do with me. There wasn't a set course, so it kind of like faffed around. And I sort of really, once I sort of got there, I realised that all the theory stuff, the theory side of things, and that sort of analysing the hell out of everything really wasn't what I wanted to do with music at that time.
Yeah.
And so I sort of kind of faffed through a few months, and then I joined. A friend of mine said, "Oh, there's this guy in Wellington, and he's looking for an acoustic guitarist to play in his, sort of Irish."
Is this the guy that we're
band.
both very good friends with?
Yeah. And he's looking for an acoustic guitarist.
Yeah.
You should give him a yell. And I did, and I went around and auditioned for this band, and met Alan.
Yeah.
And they went, "Yeah, you're awesome. Yeah, cool." And so I joined this touring band, and subsequently just went less and less often to.
But you got through it though. Did you finish Jazz?
No, I didn't even finish my first year.
There you go.
I think I dropped,
Some of the best people
I basically dropped out after about 4 or 5 months, really.
Yeah, but you've been working musician. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. So before we get to to Banshee Reel, it's interesting hearing you say that too. So like, my listeners are sick of hearing it, but I'm kind of in education now, so I ponder it a lot. And as you were saying all that, I was like, yeah, jazz and classical, fantastic foundations, but I would wonder these days whether it would have modernised into just having a kind of general popular music slant to it, because I know even when I was...
I mean, there are plenty of contemporary music.
Mains and SAE and...
But I think there is so much to be learned from classical and jazz.
Absolutely.
And that whole... I'm so grateful for the foundation that I do have in classical music, and like being able to read and write music, and basic knowledge of the forms of like symphonies and sonatas and all those, because pop songs are condensed sonatas.
Oh, look, I want to put on the record that I'm not for a second saying that a classical or jazz school isn't like important.
I think it's the discipline, especially after high school, because there's a very set curriculum in what you can teach at school.
Okay, so there's a better example I can lean on. At high schools now, that definitely will have changed, and that's like I was saying to you before, like the idea of doing anything creative, just the number of courses available. Like I did a really theoretical film degree, but these days I probably would have done something similar field, but much more practical based. There's a lot more of that around now, which I think is great. So Banshee Reel.
Yeah.
At the time, folks listening, this is my take, there were a lot of pub Irish bands, but here was an Irish band actually touring overseas and so on, right? So didn't you get dropped straight into that level of...
No, well, we started out in just touring. We did, I think, for the first year or maybe first 6 months or year, just doing a little run from, I think we'd do Levin.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, Trentham.
Oh, yeah.
Levin.
Yeah.
Whanganui.
Yeah.
And
Lower North Island powerhouse.
Yeah. And then Wellington.
Yeah.
Or was it? I can't remember. It was that sort of thing, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday kind of nights.
Wow.
And every week, it was just like a circuit. So we got to be really good at what we were doing. At the time.
But I thought you guys played overseas as well.
Well, we did, but that was like the first year or so. And then as we, the more we got to know each other and, the more we played. And the membership sort of changed a little bit, and it became less of just, this is a good way to make easy money, and a fun way to make money.
Yeah.
It was like, actually this is, we started writing things together, working on original things, and then ended up with a whole... set of, we could do a whole set of original songs and utilising traditional reels and stuff because our fiddle player was awesome.
What's the difference between a fiddle and a violin?
They're the same instrument as how you play them and how much whiskey you drink before.
Oh, awesome.
During and after.
I guess Alan I'm guessing he was like the ringleader of the band?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what he wouldn't have known at the time, I'm sure I read somewhere that you grew up listening to a lot of Celtic music via your mum, didn't you?
Yeah.
So it was already sort of in your DNA.
Yeah, my mum's side of the family is Irish, and my dad's side of the family is Scottish. So mum would listen to lots of traditional music, and when we got together with her family, her dad loved diddly dee, and we'd all that kind of carry on. And also on my dad's side of the family, being Scottish, we'd have family gatherings and we'd all dance Scottish reels. So it was deeply in my DNA.
Well, you're someone
so
who
it was just easy for me.
You're someone who needs to do a 23andMe, because that's it'd be amazing if there's just like a random strand of like Botswanan or something there, some family scandal from.
Apparently it's Spanish. Spanish is the rumoured scandal.
So you're not entirely honky.
No.
Oh, so it's a rumour, not a It's not a 23andMe. It's a family rumour.
Yeah.
So what, 18, man, back when I was 18, I didn't think that was young at all, but that is young to be playing 4 nights a week, right?
Yeah. I loved it.
But
but also I was, deeply interested in people as well. I wanted to see things and go places, and then...
Trentham, there it was.
We started touring all of New Zealand, so all of the North Island, and then, further afield, and then... ended up in Canada.
Wow. There's just a market there for pre-internet.
Yeah. And Alan made some kind of dodgy connections, and and then we, worked to save the money and went.
How long were you there?
First trip, I think we were there for 3 months.
And found a crowd. You're playing to rooms of people, or rooms of.
No. Yeah. On the whole. Quite full rooms of people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then you came on back, and I'm guessing Fur Patrol came from some period around then? Or after?
Yeah, well, I'd met from that sort of, the Irish pub circuit. There were a couple of other bands. I'd met Simon.
Shanachie, that's the other band name I remember.
That's the band that Simon.
Me sneaking underage into places.
Shanachie and the Whiskey Mice, I think, was their other one. And I think another version that sort of fell out of the same thing but wasn't exactly the same was the Velvet Underpants, which they just played all...
Velvet Underground stuff in Celtic style.
No, not Celtic style, just wasted.
I just realised another thing, historically, is there were actually... pubs to play in now. You don't really get that so much. Hey.
No, they've all turned into fancy bars.
Yeah. They've all turned into someone's faded chrome fantasy.
Actually, that's something I really, genuinely miss about Australia is...
the pub scene.
Pubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, just even
Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
Go down, sit outside in the sun, have a beer, order a pub meal.
Drink a pot.
These beautiful old...
Yeah.
Beautiful old buildings that have been used for that purpose.
I'm just thinking one in particular, like one of the last few times I was there, like is just on a side street in Fitzroy. It's just like
there's heaps of
that's
them.
Right. Yeah. And have you been to Ireland?
I actually went in September this year for the first time in my life, and I've held an Irish passport for the last 20 years, I think, and I finally got there, and it was awesome because. Obviously growing up and hearing all these stories of Ireland and where my grandfather grew up and singing all these songs and hearing all these songs and these stories and legends and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I hired a car and drove from Dublin down to Kerry. And as I was driving over the Cork and Kerry Mountains, that's an Irish song joke. But literally, as I drove sort of...
I stare at you blankly.
Yeah. Anyone who's familiar with the song Whiskey in the Jar will know what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Driving around that bend, sort of as Kerry opens up before you, coming over the hill, I was like, this lump kind of leapt into my throat and my eyes just went, I was like, oh my God, it was quite emotional. It really took me by surprise. I totally didn't expect that to happen.
It's amazing.
But yeah, it was beautiful.
I was going to say, far less romantically, lots of pubs.
Yeah.
Just thinking about Melbourne and when I was in Dublin, it's like, I was like, how can there be a pub here? And there's a pub, how can this population support this many pubs? But, you know, everywhere. And again, back to that sense of age.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's a
that
social
pub has
thing.
been there 600 years.
Yeah.
That pub has been there longer than New Zealand has been in terms of modern, Pākehā.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a community thing. It's not just to go and have a drink. It's to go and
Totally.
catch up with your
Yep.
family and your friends.
And when I ended up working in that London 4-year visa trap of minimum wage pubs and living upstairs, what I quickly noticed is that my misunderstanding growing up watching things like Coronation Street, that, God, they're a bunch of alcoholics. In fact, most of them come in every night, like you say. It's a social thing. And they'll have like a super weak beer topped up with lemonade, you know?
Yeah, shandy.
Yeah, a Foster's top.
Oh, is that what they call it?
Yeah, shandy's more lemonade. Do you feel like, back before we talk about the genesis, that's the right word, the beginning of Fur Patrol, do you feel like you've talked about this to death?
Probably.
Okay, that's gonna skip out. Okay,
No, I kind of found like we found each other, and it was remarkable that, you know, when the four of us did get together, and the first time we got together to play was sitting in Steve's lounge. Steve was our guitarist, and we'd just brought around our acoustic instruments, and Simon, I think, had brought his snare drum and some brushes. And we had a little play through these songs that I'd written, and we're like, oh, this is cool, this is quite nice. Well, you know, should we try and get in a room with like a full drum kit and some amps and have a proper go? And when we did, it just was like, oh, this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask about back then compared to now, like, you had pretty much the big album was in 2000, right? Mm-hmm. And then I looked at the dates, and 2008 was your final album, and like the industry was so different then. Was it kind of was that a difficult thing? Because what I mean is, maybe even 2 years later, people had this is my take, people had a better understanding of what had kind of happened around that time.
Yeah.
Was it weird going through that period and then sort of the bottom falling out of the industry around you?
Yeah, it was. It was really strange. I mean, there were a whole lot of things going on around that time.
Yeah.
That, you know, made it interesting for us.
Yeah.
Besides all the industry stuff, I think too.
You'd been together a long time.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us are particularly enthused about things like social media or that kind of, you know, that's, you know, we're I don't know, we're a bit old school. We just want to play music and have somebody else take care of that shit. And I will use social media for to promote my stuff, but I'm not good at it, as in I'm not you know, some people like Anika Moore, for example, is you know, she's all over that. And
I get it.
and Lord, and you know, all these people that really, it just seems to come naturally to them. For me, I'm not kidding, every time I post something, it takes about half an hour to write the post, and then it will take me about another hour to decide if I actually want to post it or not.
We need you running America. We need you running America.
Honestly, I think if it was up to me, I'd just do away with it altogether.
So you hinted at the obvious. It's a long time together. The third album didn't go so well. I was talking to Steve. I don't know if you know Steve, who was in Breathe. He's now a film composer. Yeah, lovely guy. He was my last guest, actually. And I just asked him quite a general question about the end of an era with a bunch of people, you know, creating stuff, like often with like the idea of big success coming ideally when it all stops. I'd imagine that's really fucking hard, right? So how was the end of that period? Did you just kind of get on with the next thing, or was there a long period of navel gazing? And
the hardest part was after our second album, because the third album was done without Steve. Quit the band. Yeah. So our guitarist left. Yeah. And which wasn't entirely unexpected, but it was still a shock that he'd actually done it. But we were all completely, we'd been touring our asses off in Australia, and we'd had we kind of, there's a whole lot of stuff that we did early on that was just completely arse about face, and we've got all the classic stories of signing into contracts that on with a good word and a handshake kind of thing, which actually fucked us. And then in Australia handing over to an Australian label and going, oh no, you guys are you're the big Australian label, you know what you're doing. This
Warner's?
is your territory. No,
Universal.
This is Universal.
Yeah.
And their enthusiasm was genuine, but I think there were too many Chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it just didn't, or reasons, it didn't pan out. And we were running on empty emotionally, financially, physically, and then so that was when we took stock of what we were doing and took some time out, and we decided that it was time, we would do one last album. And it was more for us, for the three of us, for closure. I see now in retrospect than anything else, because we're a little whānau. We're brothers and sister. And those their relationships are really important to me.
So you don't miss the music industry of old in terms of too many chiefs and wonky contracts?
Oh, I think, for every musician that succeeds, to a really, to a higher level, it's never just about the musician. It's about that whole team of people behind them, and them magically being the right people and the timing all clicking into place. It's so much more than just one person with or amazing talent or something fresh. It's everything like coming together to make that happen. There are so many people that work behind the scenes to support an artist.
Absolutely. So that was going to ask you about now. It's a flip of what I just asked. Basically, is do you think it'd be harder for you now starting out today? I mean, not at this point in your life, but let's theoretically say you were like 18, 19.
Again,
Do you think that old school kind of structure that propels an artist that would maybe make it harder for you, despite your immense talent, to rise above the noise these days?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think when I think back about how we came to, how we got to where we were with PACT, the mere fact that there happens to be this new startup kind of upstart radio station in Wellington,
Channel Z, right?
And then they spread throughout New Zealand, and the NZ On Air had just started up, and there was a real push. Like
Helen Clark was publicly saying, "Hey, music and film are our jam." At the moment.
It wasn't just Helen. It was like everyone was. There was a whole team of people going, "Come on!" And I think that field has changed. I think that there are much better processes in place now in terms of the knowledge, in terms of contracts and the legality of things, and there's now things like I think they're called Music Helps now. These all these different things that, or like the New Zealand Music Managers.
The forum.
There are all these different networks that people can, when you are told about them and you actually have the gumption to start going and accessing those things, it's that the support that is there now is actually incredible.
Do you get asked to go and speak to young people? What do you tell them?
Don't give up. Don't. What do I say? To do things because you find them interesting and they excite you, and not because you feel like you have to do it. And
so stick to your, I'm trying to think of the word, exactly what you mean.
And don't be afraid to try things, try different things, and don't be afraid to fuck up, because everybody fucks up. And it's not about the mistakes, it's how you recover.
That's right.
And every time it's like, talking about writing songs.
Yeah.
That first song that you write is always going to be... but it's practice. Whatever you're doing, you have to, the first time you do it, it's always going to be a bit shit. But it's the fact that you go back and you do it again and you learn something, and then you go back and you learn something more, and then it's just, perfecting your craft.
When was the last time you had a job that you had to go to? It was
in Melbourne.
That's right. Was it a clothing shop in St Kilda?
No. I worked for a little local chain of, they weren't really a chain, they had a number of a business that had a number of shops. No, they just had a number of shops around Melbourne. But prior to that, I'd been working in a pub, a really horrible, kind of a horrible pub, and I was really depressed at the time, and I used to cry every morning before I went to work. It was
sounding like me at my pub in London. And then I had the same thing. I had the same thing. I ended up in some less than ideal hospo jobs in Melbourne, but I got to say, the pay being markedly better there was a help. At least you're not getting kicked in the teeth you're suddenly like, oh my God, I'm earning better money than when I was doing.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, you sort of don't really complain as much for $22 an hour.
You know what's funny about that? And that's us saying and that money's from years ago. Yeah. You know what's funny about saying that is, like, I don't have hospo in my genes by any stretch. And I read some article a while ago about the Disney smile, which is this idea that one of the things about hospo is you've got to put a fake, like, hey, kind of thing on. But I found, I thought, this is like, for an extra $10 an hour, I'm actually more likely to genuinely have that smile than if I'm doing that same work here. It's
I did also work in another bar, and there were parts of the that I actually really enjoyed, and the people that I worked with were awesome, and I had fun. And I think because I like talking to people, and I like looking after people as well.
Yeah.
But, I think hospo was kind of in my I think that's part of the reason that I'm an entertainer, I guess, is because I like making people feel good.
I did a bit more of it when I got back here, and a bit older, I was better at it. But back then, I was definitely, it was customer service, not customer service. But I look back at that as me, I was a bit immature. It was like coming out of something I thought was far more ideal. And anyway, but a job I did there, one of the most enjoyable jobs I did was, I was a glassy, but at the Prince of Wales, so I was just seeing incredible shows.
Lots of bands.
Like I saw Queens of the Stone Age before they were, when they were small enough to be in there. Coldplay, not really my jam, but seeing them in a venue that holds only 400 was pretty amazing. Like DJs like Frankie Knuckles, and it was just relentless emptying, carrying, stocking. But good first summer job in Melbourne, 2001 when I got over there. You were over about the same period I was. I got there 2001, left 2007.
We left New Zealand. We moved over early 2000, and late 2000.
Yeah.
Or was it early 2001?
Anyway.
And I moved back to Auckland, I moved to Auckland in end of 2010.
Right. So longer than I. So I found it strangely difficult, like reacclimatizing to living in my own country. Did you find there was a sort of a period of not being in Melbourne and being, back home?
Yeah. Oh, I think one of the biggest
not our home cities either. Yeah.
No, one of the biggest things for me was having, in my adult life, lived in Wellington and then Melbourne, which are both very, they're little hubs.
Yeah.
And that you can get everywhere by walking or biking or public transport relatively quickly and easily. And then coming to Auckland, it's like, oh my God, everything is so spread out, and it's not easy to get around. Thankfully, the public transport system has improved, but I'd never owned a car in my entire life, and coming here and just, suddenly going, oh, right. Yeah. And so learning what a money pit cars are.
Yeah.
But,
I think since I've been back, or we've been back, or whatever, because you've been here for a period now. Like, I think Auckland has improved since I moved here in a number of ways.
Yeah.
But I agree with you about it being a series of little kind of like satellites. And if you moved back here with David, but it's like if you're on your own here and you move to the city, it's one of those cities that can kind of suck you up if you're having a bad day. You know, it's like you can't. Yeah.
I think the nice thing about
it's not like wandering down Cuba Street or
there is something nice about having all these little spots around, little enclaves, but I think I really miss the ease of, going, oh, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, should I come over and have a cup of tea, glass of wine or something? Just, walking down the road or just hopping on the train and being there in 15 minutes as opposed to...
So to sort of cap this whole era that we've been talking about off, I sort of asked you about, like, post such a long period of kinship and hope and hard work and I can't imagine you just came over here and launched straight into a solo career. Did you?
Well, no, I started recording my solo album and I recorded it in Melbourne and Berlin, funnily enough. And then when the album was about to be released, we moved back here. Yeah.
And what, you just buy Fur Patrol, bang, I'm into this. There was no...
Well, we'd already closed, the door. Yeah.
But I just thought, I don't know, the themes of the first album, like, it seems like you were in a bit of a funky place. Or is that just how the albums comes across? Modern Fables.
Oh, yeah, no, that was actually me, my getting out of depression.
Yeah. That's the first album, right?
Yeah.
After the EP. Yeah.
All of those songs are about, lifting yourself out of that situation and rediscovering hope.
Do you think it's? It's something we just openly talk about now. I have my struggles. Do you think it's genetic or like a clinical thing, or like it's just was it related to just life events for you getting?
I think it was
depressed.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. I think there's a predisposition in most people to have, if the right series of circumstances happen to, fall into a bit of a slump.
Yeah. I mistrust people who don't,
Yeah, same. What do you mean you've never?
Yeah. Because I really, this has come up in the last few episodes. Again, my listeners will be like, oh, what are you talking about Tom Larkin again? But I've listened to him speak a lot on podcasts and stuff recently, and he's really big on that idea of, creatives and then other people. Do you think there is like a creative kind of personality type? Just because it often relates into the like mental health and highs and lows and,
Yeah, I don't know about it. I guess if you are creating things, you are more open to exploring those emotions rather than just not. If that sounds really vague.
No, it doesn't.
But I think, people that work in sciences and maths and things, and that do incredible things. I think it's
really advanced mathematics is really creative. Yeah. Yeah,
and so it's that freedom of thought. I think if you're not challenging the way that the way that you think, then if there's nothing in your life that challenges who you are and what you do. And sometimes we challenge those things ourselves, and sometimes it's outside elements. And maybe then you don't ever get depressed because you don't have to think about those things.
I think I'm with you. Sorry, Tom. I think creativity's in everyone. It's just how much it's fostered and what you're around. I think just because I'm looking out there, I think, and that's not a good example. Like keeping an amazing garden is really creative. It's how you express it amongst what else you do.
I think there's a danger in just
siloing people.
Yeah, foisting this image of the tortured artist onto people that are creative. I think
self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah, I don't think it sort of gives people enough credit to manage their emotions. But I do think that, or it doesn't give them the credit that they have the ability to manage their emotions. But I do know that people working in creative industries are probably more prone to manipulation, particularly, performing artists and things. There is definitely a history of appalling behaviour. I think
not even behaviour. Just thinking about what you said before, that touring relentlessly in a van you talked about in Australia. Like if you're living on servo pies and chocolate zaps on a good day and energy drinks. I'm not saying you guys ate like that, but there's so many elements. There's so many elements. There's so many elements to it. The hours,
tiredness. But it's like anyone that's working a really intense job, they're going to have intense emotions as a result.
But there's a number of factors in that.
Definitely though within like the music industry, there is, and historically and unfortunately is still people that manipulate naive, young, talented people. It was actually, we just started watching that Judy Garland movie last night. And
I don't know, what's Judy Garland? Is it a biopic?
Yeah, with Renée Zellweger as Judy Garland. And it's actually looking pretty damn.
Is it on Netflix? Where do I find it? It's great having all these options these days, but it's like, I just want to turn it on and find it.
The opening sort of quote is the head of the studio basically telling her, sure, you're working hard and you can go off and you can be like all those other girls, you can go to the movies and go out for, an ice cream or whatever, but, they're all going to be nothing. Whereas you've got, they may be prettier than you, but you've got this voice. And just that manipulating her out of being a normal human being. And that, I think...
I get you. So that's sort of like almost preying on the ego?
Yeah.
You were speaking before, I mean, it's sort of... it would be I think, a cliche of a question to bring up with a female artist, but I will because you were... speaking about it in a couple of articles I read, you have talked about kind of gender imbalance in music, and you were in a very kind of Australia's quite a sort of sausage rock country,
putting it mildly.
How's that changed?
I don't know.
No, not there. Not there. But look, this is what I read. I'm putting words into your mouth. I heard you basically say you managed to hold your own.
Yeah.
But you've seen unhealthy examples of
totally.
men being gross. But so aside from that, I don't really want to talk about that. But how is the industry these days for women? Do you feel like there's more younger wahine around,
yes.
more people kind of doing it?
I think there definitely are. It is turning around. And the fact that we're just, that we're talking about it, I think is really healthy. And
come back into that mic a bit more.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
I was just getting all relaxed and like leaning back.
My job is done. Good, we're talking about it.
Yeah, and I think there are, like my album tour, having 2 other women in the band.
Yeah.
Was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Going on tour with girls is so different. I think it's good. There are a lot of things like that are changing, and there's always, you have to kind of make a bit of a fuss about it in order to get things to change, and then it becomes normal, and the fuss can go away, and it can just be what it is.
That's a great summation. And I thought coming on up, whatever, late teens, early 20s, that we were quite woke compared to people from the past. But I really feel like the last few years, I don't know how many, but just a lot more voices have been, not just to do with gender, but a lot more voices have been like, hey, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And I think it's not going to go away in the next 20 years, I don't think, But I think it's, sometimes you've got to get a bit stroppy to get yourself heard. And I think As a young woman, I think I was a bit stroppy, which is probably how I managed to
Yeah. Yeah.
get my voice heard in some ways. And I think I always just, don't like going on tour and being the only woman in a group of 20 men.
Yeah.
I just kind of accepted it as being that's the way it is, even though it was, every now and again I'd go, oh, this is a bit kind of boring.
Yeah.
But, I'm really glad to see that things are...
What do you mean boring? Like, no, I just want to talk to a fellow woman.
I just want to hang out with the girls.
Yeah. Fair play.
No, most of my friends at the time were men.
Yeah. Because men and women, let's face it, we're different. So how is it different touring with a couple of females in the band, which is what you said before? How's the energy different?
I don't know. It's just... It's kind of more relaxed.
Yeah.
It's just different. I mean, it was also Reb Fountain and Natalia Shepherd, who aka New Zealand's award-winning drum and bass artist MC Tali.
I heard really great things about her speech at the musical.
Oh yes, it's brilliant. I highly recommend going and watching it.
Look online. That's right. It's 2019.
Yeah.
What were you saying? Do you think you finished it?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. That's enough of that.
So I think that's about... I think one of the key things is just it's about things becoming normalised and about things becoming visible. So for me, the example at the moment is I still can't quite get my head around, not at all from a prejudicial standpoint. Mm-hmm. I still can't get my head around the massive noise around the transgender movement. But then it occurred to me the other day that that's probably because many people of that ilk have had to be so underground for years. And I likened it to we're old enough that we were, when we were kids, the homosexual law reform bill passed. So that, you know what I mean? It's just about. It's
totally.
just for me. I mean, you're going to come up against obstacles, but it's about time and visibility and things becoming normal.
Yeah, it's down to I remember when they were making it no longer a crime to have relationships with someone from the same gender.
Yeah.
And there being remembering that whole argy-bargy about, I know about too many gays, why are they so loud?
Right.
And
so it was mid-'80s, right?
Yeah.
So we're old enough as kids to kind of know what was going on.
But it would have been like that when, women were sticking up to go, no, we want to vote.
Yeah.
And it has, and now I know there's a thing around, sort of the emphatic kind of push for the correct pronunciation of Māori place names, and all these people that have been saying Rangi Toto for decades are like, Rangi Toto. They're small steps, but it's all healthy change.
The weird one with that one is it's only in recent memory. I remember Mikey Havoc was on Hauraki and called it Hodaki, and that's not that long ago. And people, old listeners lost their shit.
Yeah.
But the more high-profile one is one of the first places I noticed Kanoa Lloyd, who's on the project now, is she was the weather girl, and she started saying New Zealand place names in correct Te Reo pronunciation. And TVNZ or Media Weeks or whoever it was just got completely inundated by people losing. This is so weird. But point being is coming back to what you were saying, that is not that long ago, and now everyone is doing it on television.
Oh, I remember when they went from calling it Mount Egmont to Mount Taranaki.
Yeah.
So
I was at I'm in this.
Sorry, Taranaki.
I'm in this pinball circle now, and I'm not. It's nothing to do with that group, but it is quite weird. Like I said, blah 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 blah, Tauranga, and one of the guys at the meet was like, "Oh, nice pronunciation," but he meant it I'm like, so there's still a little bit of, around it. But hey,
I know change is difficult.
It is, and you know what else someone said to me that I think is really important around that is probably not even 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10 with these kind of things. Like, who ever ended up having the right take on these things, you know, when they're on the wrong side of history. Do you know what I mean? The people who aren't progressive with these things eventually are the ones that get left behind.
Oh, well, they all, you know, everyone dies eventually,
That's
don't
right.
they?
That's right. Are you? Hey, this is a bit existential. We're getting towards the end. Speaking of death, Are you? I mean, you don't have kids.
No.
I don't have kids. And people who would have kids, like now, like what's happening with the planet, man? Are we? You know? Are you? Do you?
Oh, do we really
do you
have
worry?
to go there? Yeah, of course I fucking
Well, I
worry.
think we do have to go there because it's like something we should all be talking about. If you don't, I mean, it's a big thing to talk about, but
It's terrifying.
it's terrifying.
I think we are, I mean...
Sorry.
It was interesting being talking about this recently. You know, the people in the generations before us that got us to the position that we are in today, for the most part, had no idea that the actions that they were taking and the things that they were creating were going to make things
The way they
environmentally as difficult as they are. And it's our kind of generation and the following generations that are really super aware, and we're the ones that, you know, we have to leap in and put the brakes on and reverse things. So it's if it doesn't, if we can't turn it around and humanity ends up going bye-bye.
I don't want to end the podcast here.
Then it's on us.
It is.
And I think it's a really hard thing to do for someone to say, you know, I think, you know, go, oh, that's my fault. I'm going to repair
I think
that.
You know, I think to our credits, like, was it our being the general population's fault? I think we're the consumers, but I think it's like unchecked capitalism and a lot of those people in power's fault.
Yes,
and we were kind of manipulated a lot of the way because I didn't know.
But now that's where we have to become. Everyone has to actually stop turning a blind eye to it and put their foot down and protest and get out there, because you know the since the 70s, you know, all of those really amazing things that the post-war generation put in place, sort of since, you know, the rise of neoliberal capitalism, have just like been slowly stripping away the checks and balances that were put in place to stop all this shit happening, and you know, under the guise of, this is a great new form of economics, it's going to make everyone rich. Well, that's actually proved completely 100% wrong. Can we please stop being dicks and fix it?
We've got this huge population in China and India, like not unreasonably saying, well, we want a slice of Western luxury now as well. So you've got sort of there's a lot of factors, but I agree. It's just like dropping restrictions and just saying, hey, do what you want business wise, just turn a profit. Look at where it's got us.
No, absolutely. So can I just divert our conversation for a wee second to just tell you that I'm going to be singing an opera?
Yeah, that's right. But before we do that, because I wanted to finish with that.
Oh, did you? I was trying to round it up from the dark and gloomy and giving hope.
I'm this.
Oh, see, this is what happens when you don't let me read the questions.
I'm no fly-by-nighter. All I was going to say is, and it's the third time I've said it's a cliche question, but, you know, they work, so that's why you ask them sometimes, is so the two main solo albums, we sort of talked about where you were with number one, 8 or 9 years elapsed.
Why?
Who were you and what was different about Julia Deans, the musician, and the person when the second album came out? Why? Because an album takes a long time.
Yeah, I also got involved in a whole lot of different projects in the interim, which was awesome.
No, don't worry about why. What was it? I mean, because it's a long period of time in one's life.
Yeah. I like doing different things, so it's sort of been, trying out a whole bunch of new things and new ideas. I think the second album, most of my songs through my life have been very kind of me focused and like or broken heart stories and relationship based, and then that was most of Fur Patrol's repertoire. And then Modern Fables, as I said before, was lifting myself, and also people around me I knew that were going through depression, and it's about also the strength of friendship, and the power of friendships and relationships, and helping you get out of sticky situations, and those kind of values. And then I kind of with We Light Fire, it was definitely turning that eye outwards. So and looking at more broadly at society and humanity as a whole. And how, we're, I guess that's sort of relevant to the whole
it is.
Environmental state of the world kind of thing. It's like I do believe that we have the power to make our world incredible. And to fix all if not fix, at least, what do you call it? Adjust the course of things away from disaster, but it requires talking and communicating and sharing ideas without getting all uppity.
Which is crazy, because back to social media and the way the world is at the moment, we seem to be in this crazy argumentative culture. We need to fucking chill out.
If we could just switch off social media, would make everyone go outside and play and actually talk to each other face to face instead of just screaming at each other across the
But I agree to what you were saying. Like, it can seem really overwhelming. Like, what do I do? But it does start at home, and with small things, and then with it's a movement that has to start from the ground up, which seems daunting with the power structures that we've kind of talked about. But oh goodness!
Yeah, I think the song on We Light Fire that's probably most about that kind of thing is called "Burning Cars," and it's is about the fact that in order to get our voices heard at the moment, we have to put our feet down and go, hey.
Well, it's good seeing people protest again. I've been teaching nearly 10 years now, and this is a huge generalisation, but my students now, compared to 8-9 years ago when I started, do vote and do protest, whereas the other ones were a few of them voted, and I don't think many of them would go out and protest. Before we get to opera, do you ever sort of marvel at being in kind of New Zealand music royalty now, working with Finns and so on? You just looked at me like a poot in your mouth.
Music royalty, I don't know.
You're New Zealand's Beatle. Okay, to the opera.
That's so funny.
So how does okay.
I will answer that. It's awesome having been in the New Zealand music community for this long. It does really show just how small it is.
Julia, I don't think you get there just from a length of time. They say, hey, you can work with the Finns all now.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Very humble, very Kiwi. Opera. That's a huge. I know next to nothing about the art of being a vocalist, but that's got to be a huge transition and learning curve, right? Singing wise. I've
got two words to sum up. The answer to that question is fuck yes. And then the next thing that I usually say after that is, what the fuck have I got myself into? It's completely different.
Yeah.
So different.
And
physically.
It came about from rooms that had no electric amplification. Yeah.
And as someone who has spent pretty much all of her life singing into a microphone.
Yeah. Well, you know that the condenser mic, of which these aren't, they sound pretty similar. That revolution, that Frank Sinatra started that close. So you're at that other opposite of. So how are you approaching that? Do you practice? Do you practice every day? And
I'm supposed to be practicing every day.
Is it all in Italian? Or?
Yes, it's in Italian. So I've been learning Italian on Duolingo.
Wow.
Just to give myself a basic understanding of the
why you're saying what you're saying,
structure and a vague sort of vocab and because I think to be able to sing a song in another language, you need to know exactly what the words are saying
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that you can tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you an opera aficionado at least beforehand? Because it's a genre that some people struggle with.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. I haven't been exposed enough to it, but
I remember going to operas when I was in school. You
Yeah.
know, we'd get cheap student tickets to go and watch the dress rehearsals and so forth, and just loving the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
And the music is incredible.
Yeah.
But always being kind of baffled by that crazy vibrato.
Yeah.
But I don't think I really appreciated the fact that these people were not using microphones.
No.
And I think
Yeah.
that is the thing that is most mind blowing, is that these beautiful sounds and this drama can just like come out of a human body.
So how close are your neighbours?
Well, we have a soundproof room downstairs.
Oh, excellent. But then later on, when you're practicing, you probably don't want that. With what we're talking about, is you want to then start to. I'm just riffing and guessing as I go. Once you get your voice up, then you want to learn to play the sort of, play your voice to the sort of room you're going to be in, right? So you want to go start doing it.
We move into the theatre quite a bit sooner than you would with most productions.
Where is it?
In Napier.
So you're going to be based there?
Yeah, for like 6 weeks. I'm really excited about that because I've never spent a decent amount of time down in the Hawke's Bay.
The Hawke's Bay these days is, that would be somewhere if I wasn't in a major New Zealand city, I'd live in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It's great there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so is the show just there, or is it going to tour?
No, it's just in Napier. So the Festival Opera, who are the people that put it on, they are kind of a duo. Their other kind of organisation is called Project Prima Volta, and they work with young, teenagers predominantly and young adults in the area. They give them training in opera, so they work with kids from all sorts of backgrounds, and giving them a new discipline and something to do, a project. So, and I think a lot of the graduates have gone on to go and study in international music schools and so forth. But it's such an incredible discipline. And it's such a journey to go through that training. And
so you're not doing the training. You're training yourself.
Oh no, I'm getting lessons as well. So yeah, because I would have, it's an extreme singing.
No, absolutely.
Extreme sport.
Do you reckon
singing.
you could, if you weren't given a few pointers, you could ruin your voice if you just launched into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And is it? I have some vague recollection that sometimes opera's better suited to more mature voices. Like, is it better to do? Is it better to do in your 40s than your 20s?
I don't know. No, I think probably you're better off starting young and learning how to use your body that way.
And then the next thing that begs the question is, what is the story? What's the opera that you are doing, and who are you in the story? Because the huge part of those is the narrative of the piece, right?
It's actually two operas side by side. So one's called Cavalleria Rusticana, which is the one that I'm going to be in, and the other one is Pagliaceri, I think. And they are both similar stories of, a love gone wrong, which ends in death. There you go.
Yes, that could be any opera.
I am the hussy in the in Cavalleria Rusticana, basically.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's been a pleasure. We've been chatting for about an hour and 15 minutes.
Bloody hell.
What does the rest of the day hold for you?
Stuff.
Yeah. Have you seen Ellen recently?
I haven't seen him for ages.
I haven't seen him for about 3 years, but that's because he's been down in Christchurch, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Ellen, if you're listening.
Hi, you.
Thank you, Julia. I think I think this thing it's performed well.
Yeah,
it sounded great. How's it sounded in your headphones?
Yeah, it sounded totally fine.
Thanks, Rock Shop.